U.S. President Joe Biden and his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin will meet for talks in Geneva as relations between the two countries hit a low point. Now, Biden arrived in the Swiss city saying he was ready for a tough encounter with the Russian president. He has promised to set clear red lines between Washington and Moscow, but says he hopes there will be areas for cooperation. The summit will be Putin and Biden's first face-to-face meeting as leaders and is expected to last for several hours. Let's get the latest on the story. We have DW's Alexander von Namen covering the summit for us in Geneva, and Yuri Richetto is standing by in Moscow. Welcome to you both. Alexander, let's start with you there in Geneva. So talk us through the big points on the agenda today.
There is a full range of pressing issues on the agenda. According to the White House, U.S. President Joe Biden wants to talk about Moscow's aggressive actions in Ukraine. He wants to call out Russia for human rights abuses, the poisoning of the opposition leader Alexei Navalny. But I think when the leaders come together at the Villa Lagrange right behind me, it's cybersecurity that will be at the top of the agenda. There have been a few significant far-reaching cyber attacks in the U.S. lately, some of them having Russian fingerprints on them. One targeted America's biggest fuel pipeline. So the U.S. wants Russia to do more to deter such attacks from within its borders.
Well, you know, Alexandra, just a few months ago, we saw the U.S. president say, when he was asked, that Vladimir Putin is a killer. He's talked about drawing red lines in this meeting. So how tense do you think the summit is going to be?
Well, fact is that the relations between the two countries are at a very low point. And the U.S. President Joe Biden, he has made clear that he wants to be tough on Russia. However, my impression is that he's also interested in lowering the temperature a notch or two. And White House officials told us that the main goal here is to find areas where both sides can work together on climate change, for example, on solving international crises in Libya, for example, or in Syria. The big question, of course, is whether Vladimir Putin will play along.
Yuri, that brings us to you there in Moscow, this effort perhaps to bring temperatures down a bit. I mean, we know that President Biden will confront President Putin with these allegations that Russian hackers have been behind these big cyber attacks. So from your perspective there in Moscow, how contentious do you think this is going to be?
Well, Sumi, pretty contentious, I think, but some progress could be achieved as well at this point, because ahead of the summit, both Moscow and Washington have already made some steps that might seem unusual against the backdrop of tensions in recent years. They've tried to smooth some of the sharper edges of the relationship, avoid unnecessary signals that could escalate the situation, and they even exchanged already what could be called some kind of compliment. The American president said that he perceives his Russian colleague as a worthy rival, and Vladimir Putin here in Moscow, for his part, spoke very positively about Biden's team, praising them for their professionalism in an TV interview. When asked about cyber attacks against the US and the possible extradition to the United States of Russian hackers who have committed those cyber attacks, President Putin admitted in an interview it was a possibility once appropriate agreements have been reached with Washington. That was a kind of signal to the White House, indicating the Kremlin's goodwill and readiness for dialogue at this point.
And Yuri, just quickly, what do you think President Putin wants to get out of this meeting?
A direct dialogue between the two men. That's exactly what the Russian president said he wants to establish. Russian-American relations are probably already at their lowest point since the collapse of the Soviet Union. From here, they can only get better. Although both sides are warning against high expectations, still the importance of this meeting shouldn't be underestimated. The main thing now is to try to start salvaging relations from their current level and prevent a direct, possibly armed clash between the two nuclear countries. Such a scenario, Sumi, has become more and more realistic given the way things have developed in recent years. First of all, because Russia and the United States had stopped talking altogether, and stage not reached even during the Cold War. And both sides probably have a weak understanding of where the so-called red lines are, those lines that shouldn't be crossed under any circumstances. So here in Moscow, they're convinced that neither of the two presidents will shake hands just for the record. Putin wants to achieve results, even if that only means resuming the bilateral dialogue. Under today's conditions, even that would be a lot.
Our correspondent, Yuri Resheto there in Moscow, Alexander von Namen in Geneva. Thank you.